All of us have to hope for a better society. And the Honorable Minister, we wish him well in improving that. We wish him well in whatever he does to improve the crime situation. But we cannot move away from the truth of what has happened in this country. And Mr. Vice President, I was interrupted quite a bit earlier, and I may be interrupted even more now because I want to talk about a little bit about that F-A-T-E-F-U-L, not F-A-I-T-H-F-U-L, that fateful nolle prosequi. Mr. Chairman, I listened carefully as the Honorable Attorney General meticulously outlined the measures that she intends to take in the fight against crime. I want to assure her, and I want to assure both of the Ministers of National Security, that the opposition is always fully prepared to cooperate with the government in dealing with those problems that our society faces. We live in the Bahamas, and we want the best for our Bahamas also. So we embrace the call on the Royal Bahamas website, 2012, armed robberies were 436. On the document that was tabled here, armed robberies is over 500 in 2012. This is the difficulty, where the police have something posted, we have something else presented here. I attribute no mal-afide to Senator Bell. I attribute no bad motives to him. But we have to get these things right. We have to at least know what the real statistics are, Mr. Chairman. We have to know what they are. 436 armed robberies for 2012. Mr. Chairman, that is a part of the problem when we can't even agree, the police can't agree with the minister who's responsible for national security, what are the real figures. And I'm sure Senator Bell is going to update their website so that whatever figures that he has presented here, the figures that he has presented here will be the figures that they now put on their website. So Mr.
Chairman,
Senator Bazaar is so correct when she says something that ain't right. Madam, Mr. Chairman, the figures tabled by the Honorable Senator Bell, the Honorable Senator Bell, and I'm quite sure that Senator Bannister, when he's smiling and saying it's not malafide, isn't being malicious himself. He's an honorable man himself. The document tabled by the Honorable Minister of State says at the bottom of it, prepared by the Strategic Policy and Planning Branch, Police Headquarters. These are preliminary figures and are subject to change. Senator Bell didn't prepare these figures. These are prepared by the Royal Bahamas Police Force. So the innuendo that was there, it is something that really is improper. These are figures that are prepared by the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, let me make it perfectly clear. I want to make this clear. I said it in this place and I said it elsewhere. I have great respect for Senator Bell. I don't hide that. I have great respect for him. He is a man of tremendous intellect and a man who loves his country just like the rest of us. But I pointed out something that Senator Bell needs to know. He is in a position where he needs to know that the figures he is presenting publicly are different from the figures on the police website. I'm sure he appreciates me doing that because it's important for his job. So Mr. Chairman, as I was saying, and I hope that I'm getting some of my time back, sir. As I was saying, we embrace the call by the Minister of National Security and the Honorable Attorney General to work together to fight crime. We embrace it. We support the police 100%. And we also embrace the call by the Minister last night to stop importing wreck cars. We know all too well the manner in which criminals have used wrecked cars to bring illegal firearms into the Bahamas. And I dare say that the governor knows it too because the Minister of National Security spoke to it. However, Mr. Chairman, where we have a problem is that when the police do their hard work in detecting the large number of firearms being imported through wrecked cars, having the criminal justice system cheated by issuing a nolle prosequi to persons who the police charge with this very activity. Mr. Chairman, I know that the infamous nolle prosequi was issued during the absence from office of the Honorable Attorney General. And I'm confident that had she been in office, there's no way that she would have issued a nolle prosequi to someone who the police alleged had used wrecked cars in order to bring illegal firearms into the Bahamas, even if he is alleged to have been a former client of her firm. I'm confident that would have not happened because the Honorable Attorney General knows the negative effect of issuing such a nolle prosequi, and she knows the effect that would have had on the morale of the police by keeping someone who they view as an importer of illegal firearms at large in our society. So Mr. Hales is very lucky that the real Attorney General was on leave when he got his gift, nolle prosequi. After the police had done an exemplary job of investigating the case, they had investigated the case. The police prosecutors had done a great job by calling every single witness, all of their witnesses. They had closed the prosecution's case. The defense had completed their closing argument. I guess someone did not trust the magistrate to make the right decision, or the decision that they wanted. Mr. Chairman, it's a very serious thing. It is not something that my Attorney General will have done. When I speak about poor decisions, Mr. Chairman, I want to just talk about what I think are some meaningless amendments before us. I spoke earlier of the fact that members' offices have been in office for over a year now, and they brought no legislation aimed at curtailing criminal activity. What they have done today is bring two amendments. The first is an amendment to the Police Act. That amendment, in my opinion, is a total waste of time. What we're doing today, sir, is passing an amendment that imposes a fee for character certificates. That's it. That's it. Everything else in the amendment is already in the law. When the FNM passed the Police Act in 2009, Section 124 provided that the minister would set fees for character certificates. Hence, all that was needed was the issuance of regulations setting out the fees. When the fees changed, new regulations would issue. Now, every time the fees are changed, we're going to have to amend the Act. We're going to have to amend the Act just to change a $3 fee to a $4 fee. In my respectful opinion, it's a silly amendment, sir. And that's all it does. I will admit, sir, that when I saw an amendment to the Firearms Act, I had some hope that members opposite were following the FNM example and taking action to legislate against crime. So I was disappointed. Did you know, Mr. Chairman, that the amendment to the Firearms Act is a revenue-raising measure, requiring people who fail to apply for the renewal of their gun license within 14 days after it expires to pay a fee of $50. First of all, Mr. Chairman, the provision is unclear. It is unclear because it says that they will have to pay $50 per gun per annum. That's what it says. Does that mean that if a person has 2 licenses and fails to renew one in a timely manner, he has to pay for both? Does it mean that once he's late in 1 year, he must pay the late fee for each subsequent year, whether he's late or not? You draft legislation so there's certainty. There is no certainty in the provisions of that act. It is a poorly drafted provision, but then I have no empathy for persons. I want to make it clear on the record. I have no empathy for persons with gun licenses who forget to renew them. Quite frankly, In my view, the amendment should provide that if the license is not renewed within the prescribed period, the firearm is to be confiscated and no new license issued to the license holder for several years. I guarantee that my suggestion would ensure compliance. And after all, how much money can the government raise with this amendment? Not much. Not much. Mr. Chairman, let me touch on the budget cuts. Let me touch on the budget cuts. Those amendments that I referred to as silly and purposeless, members opposite ought to have reflected on the importance of the police. Instead, their budget has been decreased. The police budget has been decreased by $5,186,802 from last year and over $1 million from 2012. Let me just give you an example of what they've done. They've slashed chemical supplies by $20,000, slashed surgical and medical supplies by $20,000, slashed Family Island operations by $167,740. They've slashed the maintenance of computers by $50,491. They've slashed tuition, training, and in-service awards for police officers by $30,000. And the provision for salaries has been slashed by $22,566. So it's not just the police, Mr. Chairman. The Department of Immigration has been slashed by $2,901,321. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force has been slashed by $803,437. The Customs Department has been slashed by $2,591,922. The magistrates' courts have been slashed by $1,036,780. The Judicial Department, you know, this department where we're going to get all these new judges, has been slashed by $2,546,823. But now we're going to come by September with another $20 million, according to members opposite. And we take $2 million away from them. The Court of Appeal has been slashed by $156,369. But we're going to appoint more judges, and we're going to increase the budget now outside the budget period. Mr. Chairman, if one only looks at the good things that have been slashed, one might have said that it is a slashing budget. But that's not the case, sir. I'll give you one example of something that the government has consistently changed in this budget. They've been unable to live up to their promise of creating 10,000 new jobs. And so in this budget, they've actually created a new budget item and will be hiring a gang of contractual employees. So for example, for the police, in this new budget item, they have $422,095 for hiring, up from zero. Every previous year was zero, didn't exist. $422,095 for hiring contractual employees. For national security, $292,750, up from zero. For inland revenue, $741,400, up from zero for hiring contractual employees. For the Department of Statistics, $320,850, up from zero. And I'm going to leave some out. For the Ministry of Finance, $829,000, up from zero. Oh, I'm going to say that at the end. For lands and surveys, $132,050, up from zero. So Bahamians, there are lots of jobs coming up, lots of contractual jobs in the government. For local government, $473,850, up from zero. For BIS, $187,000, up from zero. For the Office of the Prime Minister, $284,150, up from zero. For Foreign Affairs, $908,410, up from zero. For the Registrar General's Department, $204,900, up from zero. For the Judicial Department, Where are we going to hire these new judges? We're now hiring contractual employees for $622,000, up from zero. For the Office of the Attorney General, $487,000, $400, from zero. So AG, I may be asking you to hire some people. For the Cabinet Office, $164,150, up from zero. For the Department of Public Service, $198,050, up from zero. For the Ministry of Works, $608,000, up from zero. For the Department of Public Works, $628,350, up from zero. For the Department of Education, over $4 million. And it goes, Mr. Chairman, it just goes on and on and on and on. So I want to say to Bahamians who are watching this debate that in this budget, there's money for contractual employment of many, many friends, family members, and lovers, and also for ordinary Bahamians. And so I urge Bahamians to get in contact with the ministers. They have millions and millions of dollars in this budget to hire Bahamians and as contractual employees. And I urge them to do so because the 10,000 jobs just is not coming true. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move on to another topic. And it's a terrible decision. There are thousands of young Bahamians, sir, who want those jobs in recessionary times. However, today I want to focus on one group in particular. And so today I offer my sincere best wishes to the outgoing 12th grade students at the Jack Haywood High School. I say outgoing 12th grade students, Mr. Chairman, because this year, for the first time in its history, so Jack Haywood High School did not hold graduation exercises. I feel for those students. While the students at St. John's College have gotten most of the PR, the students at Jack Haywood High School have quietly dealt with this blow to their pride. It did not have to happen, sir. It did not have to happen. Mr. Chairman, the FNM realized that this Jack Haywood High School was too big. We realized it years ago. There were only 3 government high schools between New Providence and Grand Bahama that included both junior high and senior high schools. The Jack Haywood High School was one of them. And we realized that mixing the older students every day with young 7th and 8th graders, impressionable 7th and 8th graders, was not good. So we physically separated the Jack Haywood High School into 2 schools. We gave the junior high school students the opportunity to develop in isolation from the senior high students. And we created 2 different administrations. It cut down on the acts of violence and gave administrators and teachers the opportunity to contribute to the holistic development of those students. PLP came in and they combined the schools. Total chaos. And now the young people are being punished by not having graduation ceremonies or a prom. This PLP administration bears the blame for that, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this incident exposes 2 evident truths. First, the junior high and senior high students need to be separated. And we need to adopt those policies so young children could develop in isolation from the older children. Government ought to act in the best interest of the children, admit that they made a mistake, and reverse the terrible decision that they made to combine the school. The second truth that is self-evident is that no matter what the PLP does in its propaganda offensive, the truth about the failing PLP school policing initiative will come out. Children were behaving so badly that they obviously couldn't be controlled, notwithstanding the fact that you had school police. That's what they said. That's what is being said. Teachers and administrators are aware of the high rate of violent incidents in our schools. They tell their family and friends, and so no veil of secrecy will work. The problem, sir, needs to be addressed at its root causes, not hidden, as members opposite continue to seek to do. Mr. Chairman, there's one more thing that is hidden from me which I can't find. Can't find it. I know the Attorney General has a budget. I'm obliged to request the assistance of members opposite. Because during the debate in that other place, the Minister of Education had this to say, and I want to quote him. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what the member is trying to insinuate, but the point is the member for Golden Isle has explained why these reductions are. And I can tell you for a fact that in the Ministry of Education, the allocation in the budget for personal emoluments and salaries, when we went through this exercise this year, we found that there was an allocation in the budget for over $6 million for persons who were not getting paid, who had already actually left the service, Mr. Speaker. And so this exercise went out throughout each ministry in the government. And so, yes, $6.5 million was reduced because the people were not there and they were not getting paid. We just took them off the register and off the budget, simple as that. This had been going on for years and years, Mr. Speaker. And so if he's standing up to praise us and to give us credit, well, then I will accept that. But I'm not sure what he's trying to say. You see, Mr. Speaker, if that is what he's saying, that's fine, because it took a concerted effort between all ministries and the Ministry of Finance to clean the register in all these departments. And it's an ongoing exercise, and we want to commend the Ministry of Finance for that. So the minister was saying, I have been scratching my head, Mr. Chairman, to figure out what the Honorable Minister was speaking about, and how did he come up with this mysterious figure of $6.5 million that he said was reduced in the Ministry of Education's budget. Because unless the government is playing a game of smoke and mirrors with these estimates, it is just not so. And with respect, the Honorable Minister had to be mistaken. Now don't get me wrong, sir. The PLP is once again breaking their election promise by cutting the budget for the Ministry of Education. But there was no allocation in the budget previous years for over $6 million for people who were not getting paid. It's not reflected in here, if there was. And I challenge members opposite to show it to me, anywhere in the budget of the Ministry of Education, anywhere in the budget of the Ministry of Education. Show it to me where the $6.5 million was cut from. From salaries? Nonsense. The PLP did make provisions, sir, to cut the allocation for education officers and senior education officers by over $200,000, while providing another $607,000, $34 to hire 33 janitresses. So we're going to hire a lot of new janitresses, and people who are applying for janitress jobs should go to the Ministry of Education. But the total difference is an increase for salaries and allowances of $983,000 after the inclusion of all of those new contract workers. Mr. Chairman, there is absolutely no way that the Honorable Minister could have been referring to this year's budget for the Ministry of Education. If he was referring to it, he was mistaken. And to anyone who wished to challenge me, I say, show me the money. Show me the $6.5 million. Mr. Chairman, I want to move on to some factual misstatements. Because of the approach taken in that other place by the Honorable Minister of Education and Communication, I'm obliged to expose some of his other inaccuracies. The Minister outlined 6 key areas that he said the PLP prioritized in education, and accused the FNM of not investing in any of those areas. This is the 3rd time that he has repeated this inaccuracy, and I just cannot let him get away with it anymore. I've been silent on it for too long. Let me go down his list, and I will quote him. Quote, hiring new teachers who will have access to the best training and best practices. End quote. During my tenure, the ministry hired a full complement of new teachers every year, sir. Every year. Hundreds and hundreds of them. Every single Minister of Education can say the same thing. It's an annual necessity, and there's nothing new about their training. Nothing new here. Number 2, I quote, the creation of 21st century schools through major upgrades to ensure our students have access to the best technology. Well, Mr. Chairman, may I remind the Honorable Minister that when they demitted office in 2007, the schools were in the worst condition that they've ever been in. Millions of dollars had to be appropriated by the FNM to bring schools back to some decent condition. Moreover, the technology that the minister speaks of was approved by the FNM prior to the last election, and more than $3 million was budgeted by the FNM for that technology. It was approved in a cabinet conclusion, and every cabinet member knows that the FNM approved that money. Number 3, I quote, the expansion and improvement of preschool education, end quote. What an outrageous statement. In the middle of Grantstown is the Naomi Blatch Preschool, which was dedicated solely to preschool education by the FNM. How could you say the FNM did no investment in preschool education? Our commitment to and our expenditure on preschool education throughout the Bahamas cannot be equal, school by school. School by school. Number 4, the expansion and improvement of special needs education. Well, I suggest that the Honorable Minister visits the Gerald Cash Primary School, the Garvin Tynes Primary School, the Anatole Rogers High School, S.C. McPherson Junior High School, and see what the FNM did for special needs education. He will see that, by contrast, he cannot tell me of any, not a single comparable investment in special education by the PLP up to today. They're speaking about some. I hope that they do it. I hope they succeed in it. But we're the ones who did this. Give us the credit for it. Don't say we didn't invest anything in it. Number 5, I quote, the creation of career path academies. Another huge joke. The first and the only career path academy at the C.C. Sweeting Senior High School, of which the minister brags, was created by the FNM under our administration. When members opposite start an academy, they can brag about it. Number 6, improved and expanded after-school program. That is a cruel joke, sir. In this budget for this year, the PLP has cut the budget for after-school programs by $292,000. It's now $343,910. The after-school program budget was never that low under the FNM. In fact, when we left office, the provisional expenditure on the after-school program was $527,347. It's right here in these estimates in black and white. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, though, the PLP never lets the truth get in the way of good-sounding rhetoric. That's why they have all those names for everything. They should be explaining why Family Island scholarships were cut this year by $104,000. Why was BTVI cut by $996,000? Why was the COB scholarship allocation of $1 million annually, which the FNM put in place, taken away this year? The FNM, sir, provided great contributions to education in this country. It is a legacy that we will be proud to have anyone build on. We want members opposite to build on it. However, when anyone tries to denigrate that legacy, we will defend it, and we will defend it with facts, and those facts are unassailable. The facts are on our side. I remind members also that a minister of education must be credible. Hence, when one consistently distorts facts for political purposes, it is not likely to have much of a legacy. And I don't like to attack ministers of education, but please don't attack our legacy. I let it go on for too long. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move away from the subject of education until the next time the members opposite mistake the facts. I want to wind down by touching on a few matters mentioned by the Right Honorable Prime Minister in his communication. I was happy to hear the Senator from Abaco speak about the roads. And I was proud to hear of the proposed roads in Andros, in Acklands, and in Abaco. The FNM started the Andros Road project, and I'm pleased that we got the roads in my settlement of Steinert Creek finished. Members opposite put further road building in Andros on hold. That was disappointing. Andros supported the PLP, and they continue to be treated poorly by that party. The PLP did a subpar job on the Acklands roads the last time they were in power. The drive to Salina Point is all that is needed to show the poor job that was done. Hopefully this time they will hire a qualified road builder. Abaco is a different story. I don't know where my friend Senator is going. During the by-election, the people of Abaco were promised roads by the PLP. On my recent trip to Abaco, I was amazed by the poor quality of the work. The work has started. I was amazed by the poor quality of it. They tell me that the road at the entrance to the airport has been paved 3 times. 3 times. And it still looks disgraceful. I know he's coming. I know he's coming. Throughout Marsh Harbor, that's the road that was paved after the by-election. Throughout, and I could tell you the contractor if you want to know. Throughout Marsh Harbor, the road was paved and repaved and still full of holes. Senator Sawyer don't disagree with me. I would have hoped, Mr. Chairman, that at least out of respect to Senator Sawyer, they would have done a half-decent job paving the road in front of his place of business, which is on the main road, and the PLP headquarters. No such luck. If anyone got paid for this, if anyone got paid for that miserable job, they stole from the Bahamian people. And anyone who approved the payment should be locked up. Abaco deserves better, and Senator Sawyer deserves better. I hope so, that the Honorable Senator has sufficient influence to have the road paved properly. Mr. Chairman, instead of securing the future for all Bahamians, this is a budget that will annoy Bahamians for years to come. An artificially created GFSS deficit, which was reached by what the Honorable Prime Minister refers to as internal adjustments, paints an unduly optimistic picture of our economy at this time. While we would wish for the financial situation to be better, we also expect the government to explain the real financial circumstances that we now face. But instead, we appear to be manipulating figures to give an unrealistic view of the financial situation. The economy grew much less than the government's overly optimistic projections. As was the case the last time the PLP were in office, external reserves are down, reversing a trend of growth for every year under the FNM. Every year under the FNM, external reserves grew. It's right in that communication. In fact, our external reserves now are lower than they were in 2009, lower than they were in 2010, and lower than they were in 2013. It's in Table 5 if anyone wants to look at it. That is the cause for worry, sir. We borrowed $1 billion in 1 year, Mr. Chairman. We are mortgaging our future, and the government, we are mortgaging our future. I don't want the Attorney General to spoil this line. We are mortgaging our future when the government cannot introduce a workable mortgage relief plan at a time where they're introducing taxes that will negatively impact every Bahamian. A local food store owner was among local businesses who complained in the media about the new taxes. He's in business to make money. So those taxes will be passed on to every one of us who buys something in any food store, not just his own. The taxes on the banks are going to be passed on to the customers. Banks will continue to make a profit. That's the business they're in. They will continue to repatriate those profits. The only change is that they will create new fees for Bahamians to pay in order for them to do so. And unfortunately, the government has brought no legislation to protect consumers, the ordinary Bahamians, from having to pay higher fees. The new customs processing fee on manifests and other declarations for inbound and outbound aircraft and vessels will be passed on to all of us through increased fees by the airlines and ships. Bahamians who believe that they can avoid high local prices by shopping abroad will now face a shock. The customs processing fee can increase from $10 to high of $500. And that's just the fee for processing the entry. Customs duty will be payable on top of that. The new customs entry processing fee for all entries will not only adversely impact those Bahamians who shop abroad, sir. It will hurt every Bahamian. Instead of paying $10 for entries, businesses will have to pay up to $500 for the entry to be prepared. Some businesses will have such entries, many such entries during the course of a year. The huge increase in fees that they will now have to pay will be passed on to us, the consumers. So even where there's something duty-free, say for example books. A bookstore buys books which are duty-free and they're imported into the Bahamas. The customs entry fee will be charged and the cost will be passed on to us. These are inflationary measures, sir. The government has also brought a real property tax amendment bill. In my view, the provisions of the real property tax amendment bill are unclear and unenforceable. The bill is supposed to define the term commercial property. And Senator Bazard, you may want to listen to this. Your legal opinion may matter. And to impose a duty on lenders to ensure the taxes are paid on commercial property. That bill, sir, fails in all respects. Commercial property is now defined as, and I quote, this is what the bill says, property used solely for business purposes. That's commercial property. Property used solely for business purposes. With this definition, the owners of the biggest commercial properties in Bay Street or downtown, say for example the owners of the financial center, the owners of the mall at Marathon, can escape that provision very easily. For example, if I own a huge huge building downtown, I can put a small studio apartment there and let my son live there. Or say that I live there on the weekends. That is not being used solely for business purposes. And so no matter how big that property is, and no matter how small my little suite is, that I say is used by my son, I escape being a commercial property. That definition, sir, needs to be amended. Otherwise, the amendment will be ineffective, and the purpose of the current bill will be easily circumvented. Secondly, the provisions of the new Section 19A1 create uncertainty in that commercial lenders will not know whether they have to pay the outstanding tax or the outstanding surcharge. It says, oh, the provision is too vague. If the bill is to be enforceable, that too must be amended. The third problem, sir, is that Section 19A2 seeks to vary a contractual obligation between parties, many of which have been in existence prior to the bill being passed. A mortgage is a legally enforceable contract. Mortgages impose upon the borrower the duty of paying legally imposed impositions, such as real property tax. A law that seeks to do what this section seeks to do is, with respect, unenforceable. The government should not seek to bring this bill into force. They need to amend the provisions and pass enforceable legislation which serves the purpose that they seek to have served. This bill will not do it. At the same time, I invite the government to take another look at the provisions of Section 8 of the Business License Act. That provision needs to be amended to be clarified. Reasonable questions arise, such as must the parent company be doing business in the Bahamas, or whether a rate will be assigned to the company wherever they do business in the world, based on the type of business they're engaged in. And what if the parent company is engaged in many types of businesses around the world, but not in that type of business in the Bahamas? What if an international charity incorporates the company in the Bahamas for the purpose of giving microloans for profit? Will the Bahamian company be tax-free, like a charity? Tax laws must be certain. The provisions of Section 8 require a new look and adjustment. Mr. Chairman, I will close by touching on the issue of value-added tax, and I hope that I can just have a few minutes to finish this because I think it's important. I'm grateful to you, sir. The government appears intent on introducing value-added tax in 2014. They issued a white paper on VAT earlier this year and have indicated every intention to proceed. So I want to add a word of caution by repeating the words of a well-known Bahamian, and I want to quote this Bahamian. And this is what the person said. There is national consensus that the Bahamas should not adopt an income tax system. And therefore, reform of the revenue structure would mean the implementation of a value-added tax, VAT, or a similar tax. This government has no intention of introducing such a tax now or in the near future. Indeed, no government would be able to introduce a VAT at short notice. This is because a VAT is a complex measure requiring careful planning and preparation, extending over several years, and it would involve considerable consultation with those likely to be affected, such as businesses and ordinary Bahamians. It would give effect to it. In recognition of the fact that it would be useful to explore all aspects of a possible VAT for implementation, at some future date, when the necessity and desire for change materializes. The Ministry of Finance is continuing to commission reports on operational aspects of VAT. However, I can assure the House that there are no plans to implement VAT now or in the immediate future. Those are the words of the Honorable Cynthia A. Pratt, MP, who will speak as the Acting Prime Minister and the Acting Minister of Finance of the Bahamas in the 2005-2006 budget communication. We have been warned by the former Acting Prime Minister of the PLP, the Bahamas, that VAT is a complex measure requiring careful planning and preparation, extending to several years, and that's a direct quote from her. Perhaps someone will heed that sage advice. Madam President, I agree to us meeting as we do now, so that the government will be able to meet its deadlines for having legislation and tax measures prepared for implementation prior to the end of the month. Regrettably, this means I will not be here for the remainder of the debate due to previously scheduled travel arrangements. While we in opposition voice our concerns, ultimately the traditions of our democracy demand that once we have had our say, the government will have its way. We have now voiced our reservations, which we hope the government will heed. And in accordance with our democratic traditions, we are obliged to support the budget. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. As many, the Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Tanisha Tynes.
Madam President, I wish to begin by reading a poem written by Mr. Donald M. McCartney entitled Bahamaland, which is a tribute to our country, especially as we go forward to our 40th anniversary of independence. Bahamaland, Bahamaland, you were brave and free. I will always place my trust in thee. O beautiful Bahamaland, the land of sun, sand, and sea, shine forth thy beauty in gracious majesty. May God in all his goodness shine his everlasting light on thee. O beautiful Bahamaland, your tall, stately pines show forth thy natural beauty for the world to see. Bahamaland, Bahamaland, you are proud and free. I will give my life for thee. O beautiful Bahamaland, like diamonds you shine, from Atlantic Ocean to Caribbean Sea. O beautiful Bahamaland, home of the brave and free, may God grant you serenity and the courage to maintain your liberty. O beautiful Bahamaland, from Grand Bahama to Inagua, we are one in unity, brotherhood, peace, and prosperity. Bahamaland, Bahamaland, may we always be true to thee. I think that is very fitting, especially as we go forward. We're only weeks away from this milestone in our history. And I would also like to recognize the students of our nation who have graduated from the various stages of their educational career. I'll also like to give, as the young people say, a shout out to the young ladies who were successful in completing the program for Teen Mothers at PACE. I was their guest speaker at that graduation. In order for them to complete that program, they had to return to regular school and meet the graduating requirements there, and also not to have another child during that time. I would also like to continue my congratulatory greetings to the to the young people who graduated from Grand Bahama Academy of Seventh-day Adventists. I was also the guest speaker there as well. Bishop Michael Eldon High School, 8 Mile Rock High School, and St. George's High School, where I also was a guest speaker. I was working very hard last week. Further, I wish to congratulate Grand Bahama's very own Student of the Year, Leah Campbell. She was in yesterday's Freeport News. And just so those of us here in New Providence, this is our very own. And she competed with the students throughout our nation. Her name is Leah Campbell, who attends Maurice Moore Primary, which is in the constituency of Marco City in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Madam President, today I rise to give my contribution on a bill for an act for the appropriation of diverse sums of money for and towards defraying the expenses of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on revenue account for the financial year commencing the 1st of July 2013 and ending 30th of June 2014. I am here to say to the people of the Bahamas, we now can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This government has been working hard for the Bahamian people. By November, December of this year, over 1,000 new jobs and many indirect new jobs will be available for the people of Grand Bahama. What a joyous time this will be in Grand Bahama. These job opportunities will be made possible by the tripartite arrangement between the government, Hutchinson Whampoa, and Sunwing, where the following initiatives will be achieved to rejuvenate the Grand Bahama tourism industry and just basically the economics of Grand Bahama. First, the 400-room Reef Village will be renovated and completely refurbished by Hutchinson, leased and operated by Sunwing as a Blue Diamond 5-star all-inclusive resort. And as the Prime Minister stated yesterday, this will create jobs for the Grand Bahamians. Sunwing, using a fleet of modern aircrafts, will provide airlift with several flights per week from Canada to Freeport. This, too, will create jobs for Grand Bahamians. Sunwing will also join forces with other air carriers and tour operators to support increased tourist traffic from the United States. With this, more people will be coming to Grand Bahama, and therefore jobs will be created. As the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday, Sunwing has already started its marketing campaign that they are opening. Local contractors and many others will find employment as construction and renovation for that section of the Grand Lucayan Hotel will commence in just a few weeks. Grand Bahamians, do you remember the Lighthouse Point property? This is located on the eastern end of the Grand Lucayan Resort. Discussions are ongoing to reopen this property. Madam President, our Prime Minister also stated that during this budget period, the Grand Lucayan will refurbish all 542 rooms in its Breakers Key building and upgrade some public areas and surrounding restaurants. Guess what? More jobs. My beloved people of East Grand Bahama, discussions are ongoing for a major resort, residential, air and sea transportation and energy proposal. It's at that beginning stages where you have to do the background checks. So, eventually, there will be more jobs, especially for those who live in East Grand Bahama. Madam President, this 2013-2014 budget is the first step in establishing a solid foundation for the sustained economic rebound, which is now beginning to take place here in the Bahamas. This government, Madam President, once it came into office 13 months ago, did not stick its head in the sand when it realized the dire fiscal condition of the country. As I stated in my mid-year budget contribution, that this government simply rolled up its sleeves and began to work diligently for the people of the Bahamas. To the residents of Smith's Point, do not be discouraged. The seawall that you have been requesting for so many years, it is now part of discussions between the Ministry of Works and Urban Development, the Ministry of Environment and Housing, along with the Ministry for Grand Bahama, to complete this project within this fiscal budget. And to that, I say more jobs for Grand Bahama. Healthcare is an essential service that cannot be taken for granted, Madam President. The previous administration, in their short-sightedness, acquired the former Island Palm Hotel with the intent to renovate a portion of it for the expansion of the existing healthcare facility, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and demolish the structurally unsound portion of the building, thus creating additional green space at the existing site. However, this administration, with its Vision 2030, has developed a plan to establish a modern, responsive healthcare infrastructure for Grand Bahama, which falls under the portfolio of the Ministry for Grand Bahama, in close consultation with the Ministry of Health and the Public Hospitals Authority. This government, Madam President, through its vision, led by the findings of the Dorset Report, surmised that a new state-of-the-art hospital is not only needed to deliver efficient, coordinated health care services for the residents of the Northern Bahamas, but will also attract a new niche market in medical tourism, generate revenue, stimulate economic growth, and create employment opportunities for Grand Bahama. A few months ago, contracts in the amount of $160,000 to renovate the clinics in Sweetings Key, McLeanstown, and High Rock were awarded to a number of contractors. Shortly, work will begin at the 8 Mile Rock, West End, and Hawksville clinics. More jobs, Madam President. Madam President, the hurricane season is upon us, and in the last 2 weeks, the entire country experienced unstable weather patterns which caused severe flooding in low-lying areas throughout the country. NEMA has been extremely active in Grand Bahama. I wish to speak to the residents of Grand Bahama, Madam President, in regard to the 2013 hurricane season, which began a few weeks ago on June 1st. The experts have predicted that the hurricane season will be a particularly active one, with many tropical storms and depressions and a few major hurricanes. Therefore, it is crucial that all the residents throughout Grand Bahama be informed and prepared. The recent severe weather and incidents of flooding across the archipelago is a reminder to us in Grand Bahama of the devastation that we experienced during Hurricanes Francis, Jean, Wilma, and most recently Sandy. We in Grand Bahama are no strangers to adverse weather conditions as its effects, and therefore it is the responsibility of a caring government to ensure that residents are kept abreast of the weather conditions in a reasonable time so that they can protect themselves, their family, and property. Therefore, it is a priority of this administration to reestablish the Grand Bahama Meteorological Center, which was done within the first 100 days of this term. And finally, Madam President, as stated in the speech from the throne over 13 months ago, finally, my government believes in Bahamians and in the capacity and determination of the Bahamian people to overcome all the many challenges that lie before us, armed with a common purpose and united in patriotism and love for one another. We shall indeed overcome and achieve for our nation the greatness that is its destiny. Madam President, I support the 2013-2014 budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many. The Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Alex Storr.
Madam President, fellow senators, before I begin my contribution to this 2013-2014 budget debate, I know it's a bit late, but I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all fathers of our great Commonwealth a belated Happy Father's Day. This especially goes to my own father, Henry F. Storr. I am convinced that I would not be standing here in this place were it not for the lessons taught and values instilled in me by him. As a matter of fact, Madam President, had I been a better pupil of his teachings, I may have had a seat in the building a little more to the west in the square. Be that as it may, the good Lord had another plan, so here I am, and I am happy and honored to be here and sit among my fellow senators. My father also taught me the value of hard work, and that if something is worth doing, it is worth doing to the best of your ability. Whether it be sweeping a floor or serving as the chairman of the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, for that matter, this was the key to his success. He also taught me that honesty and integrity are the hallmarks of a good person. For that, I say thank you, and I pledge to do my endeavor best to make him and our country proud. Madam President, this budget and the bills before us are about transforming the Bahamas and improving the lives of Bahamians over the length and breadth of our nation. This is the second budget presented by this Christie-led government, but it is the first that this administration has truly crafted without the overwhelming influence of the previous administration. This budget is reflective of the policies and programs outlined in the Charter of Governance, and it demonstrates that this administration's commitment to the prudent development of our nation and, more importantly, our people. I note with interest that this budget is not New Providence-centric, but will bring relief and development to Long Island and the other family islands as well. In this budget, we see provisions being made for improved revenue collection methods, a strengthening of the Royal Bahamas Police and Defense Forces, an enhanced educational system, nationwide development in sports, an upgrade in healthcare services, improved delivery of social services, a revitalized tourism product and marketing strategies, a much-needed emphasis on agriculture, long-needed upgrades to family island infrastructure, and the full-fledged launch of the PLP's affordable housing program. Madam President, I want the record to reflect that I am proud of what this administration has been able to accomplish in 1 year of governance. There has been much chatter in the press and from armchair politicians and pundits on what has not happened, but few outside of this place and the other place are articulating the good things that are occurring in the country. There is a saying that what you give your attention to grows. And I personally think that we must highlight more often the good things that our people are accomplishing and the good things that are happening in our nation. Madam President, this government has had to make some hard, sometimes not popular decisions since assuming office. But all of these decisions have been in an effort to bring this economy back from the brink of fiscal disaster. The current leader of the opposition party, who sits in the other place, admitted that the former administration left the economy of the country in a wheelchair. Broken down in a wheelchair, he said they left the country. Those were his exact words. You can check the records because I'm not making it up. Madam President, the admission of the leader of the opposition party should prove to the Bahamian people that what we in the Progressive Liberal Party have been saying all along, that the Free National Movement administration were horrible stewards of the people's money, is in fact the case. It is the case. He said it himself. So that settles it. It should further prove to the Bahamian people that what this PLP administration has been doing to streamline expenditure and cut out waste was in the country's best interests. I, for one, am happy that we finally have an admission from no less the leader of the opposition party himself as to the dismal fiscal state in which the former administration left this nation. Madam President, as I listened to the debate in the House of Assembly, there were 2 points in particular that struck me. They really hit home with me because they remind me of certain things that are happening right now in my life. The first was made by the former member for, the member for Baines and Grandstown, who spoke of his recent health challenge and the reality of the unavailability of affordable health care in the Bahamas. As you recall, when I spoke during our last debate in this place, I informed fellow senators of my mother-in-law, Brenda Grant, who was then in the intensive care unit of the hospital. She has since been moved to the IMCU, but this Friday will make 6 weeks that she has been hospitalized. Madam President, fortunately, my mother-in-law has had excellent care, and I witnessed the power of prayer and the expert skill of the Bahamian medical practitioners. But sadly, Madam President, too many times the difference between life and death is decided by the ability to pay. And too many Bahamians are losing their lives because they are unable to pay for needed medical attention. This trend must come to an end. We must find the ways and means to provide our people with affordable health care, be it national health insurance or by some other means. We cannot continue to watch our people perish. I am pleased to see that the Minister of Health has made announcements signaling the beginning of the process to implement national health insurance. Madam President, the other point that struck me was made by the member for Michael. He was recounting a recent trip he made to Dunmore, Long Island. I am very familiar with Long Island, as you would know, and I visited Dunmore and have concluded that the people there are some of the friendliest in the nation. Unfortunately, they are amongst some of the most disadvantaged. Dunmore has no fresh running water installed and depends on Water and Sewage Corporation to fill a storage tank for the residents to have access to fresh water. During the 2012 election campaign, there were times when water was not delivered for weeks. In this modern Bahamas, this should not be the case. People should not be forced to live under such conditions. I have every confidence in the Minister of Works and Urban Development that he will bring an end to such conditions in Dunmore, as he has announced water is on the way in another part of Long Island, and so I'm sure that soon it will reach Dunmore as well. Madam President, there can be no doubt that this government is about the people's business. Madam President, some months ago, during debate here in this chamber, a member of the other side criticized this administration for allowing newly constructed houses in Straughns Hill to remain unoccupied. What should be criticized most strongly, Madam President, is the former administration's construction of homes without the provision of the needed infrastructure. That is, no light, no water, no proper access roads, nothing. When told of this, his reply was, "Well, you're the government, now fix it." Well, I'm happy to report, Madam President, that it's being fixed. As the Minister of the Environment and Housing stated in his budget contribution, and I quote, "Most of the past year has been spent repairing houses, completing unfinished houses from the last administration, installing infrastructure in those subdivisions where houses were built without the necessary services, and getting subdivision approval to sell lots in order to operate within the legal framework of the Subdivision Act." End quote. I might add, Madam President, that the Subdivision Act was passed by the former administration, yet they failed to obtain subdivision approval for various government-built subdivisions, as required by the very legislation they passed. This administration has done so, and persons are now moving into those houses. There can be no doubt that this government is about the people's business. Madam President, in the budget, this PLP administration is also focusing on the preparation of our citizens through education and training. Young persons who are looking for a start in life will be helped by things that are happening in this budget. The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance in this budget communication spoke to the economic and development opportunities that will soon be coming on stream, and we have to ensure that our people are prepared. At the same time, Madam President, our people must ensure that they themselves are prepared for the opportunities that are becoming available. The government cannot come to your house, wake you up from your slumber, and deliver you to opportunity. This government is doing its best to create an environment of opportunity and prosperity, and in turn, persons must seek out those opportunities. Madam President, the 52-week program advanced by the former administration was good for those who were helped by it. But Madam President, as the name denotes, it had an expiration date from its inception. It was nothing but a temporary band-aid fix, not a sustainable program or permanent job creation that was needed. Madam President, unlike the former administration's stopgap measures and band-aid fixes, this administration is ensuring that the Bahamian people have access to permanent gainful employment. The proposed National Training Agency, which is provided for in this budget is meant to prepare our people for jobs. To use the old adage, you can give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. This government is about making fishermen, Madam President. Our people need the employment. We need not leave room for the demand for foreign workers when Bahamians can be trained to fill the jobs that are coming on stream. Let me take this opportunity to give a word of advice to all students of this nation, whether they are in high school, college, or some other institution of learning. Preparing yourselves for where the Bahamas and the world is heading is very important. Every day, borders are becoming more and more indistinguishable. Take the opportunity to learn a foreign language or learn about other cultures and the latest technology. It may serve you well in the future. Madam President, when I studied at Barry University, and I know we have a number of alumni here in the Honorable Senate, being my good colleague right here and the government leader, but we learned of a concept called, at Barry University, called institutionalized discrimination. Let me explain to you how this concept is being practiced every day right here in the Bahamas, in my view. What happens is a company will advertise a position. They can't say, like the previous administration did, that Bahamians need not apply. So what they do is add in the list of requirements, stipulations that they think most Bahamians cannot meet, such as must be fluent in German. This makes it highly unlikely to find a Bahamian who is qualified for the job and can speak fluent German, allowing them to bring in the foreign person they had lined up for the job all along. Students must prepare themselves so that they can take advantage of every opportunity and not allow this to continue to happen. When they say you must be able to speak Chinese, We should be able to have a Bahamian out there who could speak Chinese and do the job as well. We need to prepare ourselves for the future and not have others come in and take advantage of what is going to happen in our country. Madam President, also provided for in this budget is a school dedicated to special education. In my view, this is most welcome and long overdue. I am elated that we are bringing relief to those people with special needs, children who have no place to take them during the day. This school will allow for more of our people to be able to make a contribution to this society. It also has been promised that the College of the Bahamas will obtain university status by 2015. There can be no doubt that this government is about the people's business. Madam President, this PLP administration is also committed to lower the rate of electricity, the electricity rates. For some people in the country, the monthly electricity bill is like paying a second mortgage. Madam President, sometimes I myself am afraid to open my BEC bill. And sometimes I'm lucky to see that it's around or just under $700. But still it is a burden. Madam President, what I'm saying is that politicians, we feel it too. We pay the same rates. Contrary to what some may have heard, we get no breaks. So we feel the same pain as everybody else month to month. The high rate of electricity has been a vexatious problem in this country for a long time. For years now, we have heard of the high number of people who have had their power disconnected because they were not able to keep up with the monthly bills. Can you imagine in this modern Bahamas, no lights at night, no refrigerator to keep your food in, no radio or television, and children doing their homework by candle or lamplight? Madam President, in this day and age, air conditioning is almost a necessity to live comfortably. On a 95-degree day after a hard day's work, it is a treat to come home, turn on your AC, and relax. Some Bahamians can only look at the AC unit right now, because if they turn it on, it means that they have a shocker coming at the end of the month, a hefty, unaffordable light bill. I therefore commend the efforts of the chairman of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation and his board to provide relief to the Bahamian people. His efforts have already produced slight reductions, and he has only just begun. If removing the excise duty from the fuel used by BEC and cutting operational costs will further ease the burden, then I look forward to even further reductions. He has also promised to restore electricity to the homes of those persons whose power has been disconnected. There can be no doubt that this government is about the people's business. Madam President, crime also weighs heavily on the minds of Bahamians. Numbers don't lie, Madam President. Crime is trending down. But some may say that the fear of crime is very real. Although we seem to concentrate on the murder rate, crime is bigger than that. We live in a society where people complain about crime, but don't think twice about running the red light. Where people complain about the armed robberies, but don't think twice about parking on the sidewalk. Where people complain about the drug pushers, but don't think twice about driving under the influence of alcohol. Madam President, crime is crime, whether minor or major. We must all do our part to make this a better, safer nation, and not one of lawlessness. The Minister of National Security, the Honorable Bernard Nordich, and his Minister of State, our colleague Senator Keith Bell, should be commended for grabbing the bull by the horns. I have every confidence in this dynamic duo will get the job done. I think we are headed in the right direction, and I hope that we continue to see the numbers decreasing as time goes on. This problem was not created overnight, and it will not be solved that way. We have already seen the government's programs making an impact, and there is more to come. With new vehicles, vessels, other equipment, and additional manpower soon to join the fight, not to mention programs like saturation patrols and urban renewal, we will wrestle this piece under control. But once again, Madam President, we must all do our part. We cannot just point fingers across the aisle while not being accountable for our own actions. As parliamentarians, we are held to higher standards and should set good examples that others can follow, not behave like thugs on the street. Madam President, in recent times, we have witnessed the reversal of fortunes of many Bahamians. With the loss of jobs, increase in prices, overall unpleasant economic times, and fiscal mismanagement, the Ministry of Social Services has seen an increase in demand for all of their services. Prime Minister Christie, being the visionary, compassionate leader that he is, saw fit to reinstate social services as a full-fledged, standalone ministry. He saw in Melanie Griffin the right woman for the job. She has done remarkable work since returning to the helm, reversing the neglect of the juvenile facilities and listening to the concerns of social workers and other professionals within our ministry. Social services is now performing the job it is meant to perform, with a competent minister at the helm. Madam President, having listened to the plans laid out in the House of Assembly by the minister, having had the pleasure of working with her closely in other capacities, and knowing the high caliber of woman she is, who embodies all the qualities of God-fearing, Christian, respectful lady, I have no fear of contradiction when I say that she will go down in history as the best Minister of Social Services the Bahamas has ever seen. I have no doubt that help and hope will be delivered to those that need it most, regardless of politics. Madam President, the renewal of the Family Island Development Encouragement Act brought a collective sigh of relief from those living in Long Island and other family islands. I received many calls from Long Islanders who were inquiring as to whether the act would be extended, and I was happy to confirm for them that it would be. This act helps to provide employment for countless family islanders that would otherwise have none. Madam President, I am happy to confirm and fully support the announcement by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister responsible for Works and Urban Development that this government will deliver water to the people of Salt Pond, Long Island. Madam President, the Minister and the Chairman of Water and Sewerage can both attest that I have actively agitated for the installation of fresh water for the people of Salt Pond and other areas of Long Island. As a matter of fact, I promise this from this very place that the PLP would fulfill the empty election promise made by the former administration to the people of Long Island. I anxiously await the announcement of water for other areas in Long Island. Madam President, I also understand that road works are in the pipeline for Long Island. Many roads have remained damaged since the passage of Hurricane Irene in 2011. I would like to make a special plea for the people living on Bridgewater Road, which is in its present state just barely fits the definition of a road. As an influential Long Islander told me, and in their own special dialect, he said, "No man has seen a road like that." Madam President, although I'm not the elected representative for Long Island, that does not stop me from caring. I have a laundry list of items I would like to see done for Long Island to reverse the years of neglect that they have suffered. Some of what I would like to see done are the installation of drainage wells to end the flooding that occurs every rainy season, especially in the areas of Deadman's Key and at the Morrisville Primary School. The building of a new terminal building at the Deadman's Key Airport, along with international facilities and proper support for the Long Island agriculture and livestock farmers to revitalize that once thriving Long Island farming industry. Madam President, my list could go on, but I will stop there. Madam President, I would be remiss to take my seat without mentioning the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, the place for which I have been given charge. We are poised to secure the future of affordable housing for generations to come with a fine complement of competent, hard-working, and dedicated executives and staff. There are those affiliated with the side opposite who are on outside looking in and would seek to create mischief for their own selfish political gain as they fight for relevancy. But let me assure the Bahamian people that the BMC is in good shape. We have seen recent improvement in our arrears rate, which stood at 36.42% in April 2013, due to our recently implemented programs and ongoing programs. We hope to see an even further decrease as we move into phase 2 of our efforts. We have also renewed our focus on public relations, realizing its importance in this modern age of technology and competition. It is a threefold approach which seeks to promote our private lending services, appeal to our delinquent customers, and to carry out public service initiatives. In this regard, we have begun talks and look forward to partnering with the Ministry of Education to provide personal financial management lectures in the government high schools to graduating students. These lectures are to cover such topics as consumer loan management, the importance of saving, budgeting, and of course obtaining mortgages. Madam President, the merit of our efforts were confirmed when the Prime Minister in his address to wrap up the budget debate in the House of Assembly mentioned his meeting with banking shareholders about the acute debt of Bahamians due to consumer loans and the need for something to be done about it. Madam President, recently BMC signed a Memorandum of Understanding along with the Ministry of Environment and Housing, the Ministry of Finance, and the National Insurance Board for a $60 million loan to fund the government's housing program. The first tranche is $10 million, which the Minister of the Environment and Housing has announced will be used to construct up to 130 homes in existing subdivisions where there is available lots and infrastructure. This initiative will assist BMC in fulfilling its mandate to stimulate, encourage, and promote the ownership of homes. In closing, Madam President, I would like to congratulate our Prime Minister, his Minister of State, and his Minister of State for so ably crafting a well-rounded budget that seeks to provide opportunities for Bahamian people while at the same time develop our nation in a prudent manner without burdening them with gratuitous tax increases. Madam President, a blind man would be able to decipher that the Bahamas is in good hands under the visionary, compassionate leadership of the Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie, the man who has paired with a new generation of leaders his experienced leadership to transform and modernize our beloved Bahamaland, ensuring the future of generations of Bahamians to come. The Bahamas will be returned to a place of prominence in this region and will get back on its way to being the greatest little country in the world. I fully support this budget and the bills presented therewith. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Aspeni. The chair recognizes.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a short contribution this evening because I know. Correct. Before I begin, I wish to, with your leave, Madam President, congratulate our fellow senator, Senator Greg Burrows, who happens to be traveling at this time. And I wish that he were in fact in the chamber, because he was honored along with 39 other fathers, the fabulous 40, this past weekend in a fantastic ceremony that showcased 40 fathers who have made significant national contribution. And I wish to congratulate the sponsors and organizers, Mount Tabor, and their illustrious pastor, Bishop Neil Ellis, who were fantastic, fabulous as well, in their execution and managing this event. And I wish to congratulate Senator Burrows. To begin, Madam President, I wish to publicly thank the Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for his firstly having appointed me to this position, Senator, and also for presenting to the country at this time a budget that is, in addition to holding great promise through commitment to fiscal discipline, we acknowledge that rewards await us as a country as we embrace this budget that demonstrates that there is both head and heart resident in our Prime Minister. This budget will augur well for the overall strength of the economy, strengthening of the economy, for which there have been many positive signs. And it is obvious that this economy is rebounding, even though the recovery and the road to recovery is difficult, and before us there is a great deal of hard work. All in all, Madam President, it is safe to say that this budget safeguards the future for all Bahamians. I wish at this time, Madam President, to explore a little bit of the economic story of the Bahamas in modern times, and it's quite interesting. It is a classic lesson of sacrifice by one political grouping and squandering by another. And it's played itself out much to the detriment of the Bahamian people. Let us look at some of the aspects of how we got where we are. I will address later how we get from where we are to where we need to be, and show you how this budget does, in fact, do that. The FNM in 1992 came to office with great promise. That was a very rough time for the world. Nonetheless, they came into office and governed for 10 years until 2002. That period from 1992 to 2002, by and large, was one of the best economic periods of all time. All time. It was one of the best economic periods, all given the time from 1992, 1993, basically until 2000, 2001. The best. The best. Yes, 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 yes. You're right, yes. But that period in between, Gulf War, 9/11, the best. Okay? The economic report card of the FNM will now be placed under scrutiny. During this time, they produced several budgets from 1992 to 2002. Then they governed for an additional 5 years, the period 07 to 2012. And when we examine the FNM's budgets, they've all been about collect and spend. And this is very evident when we look at the FNM governance, the FNM's governance just before the 1997 general elections. With the results that year, the country recorded its largest deficit in history. And then, after that, and I could opine on why that deficit was so great. You see, in 1997, we had an election. And in election years, under the FNM, they go on a spending spree that history has never seen any bounds before. And post 1997, there was protracted decline. In 1998, it went from 6.8% down to 4% in 1999, 1.9% in 2000, and 0.8% in 2001. A dismal, dismal performance that the government ought to hang its head in shame. Then we'll be governing right after you. Typically, the year after 5 years of your squandering, we now have to again, in the PLP, be responsible, responsive, and build up to ensure that there are positive growth rates. And all of that, I hear Senator Bannister, and I had occasion to listen to some of Senator Bannister's contribution, and I will deal with that as I speak. But safe to say, Senator Bannister, when you compare the PLP's record of growth and prosperity to the F&M's record of squandering and mismanagement, it is clear for all to see. And the results are there. That's why I said to you when I started out that we're going to look at your report card. The F&M took over in 2007, and the annual growth rate in the Bahamas again went into another period of protracted decline. You take the credit, you take the blame. And Madam President, it's here for all to see. The U.S. in 2007, 1.9% growth rate, Bahamas 1.4. In 2008, a negative growth rate, which means shrinkage, negative 2.3%. 2009, minus 4.2%. 10, 1%, 11, 1.7%. Now, Madam President, bear in mind that when we compare global figures to both the F&M and the PLP, there's a stark difference. We outstrip the average global growth rate in the PLP. When the PLP is the government, outstrips it. When the F&M is the government, they lag behind.
Right. The statistics show it. Central Bank.
The numbers are borne out. Their policy during this time has been the same, as I've stated before, collect and spend. And this approach led to the then governor of the central bank, when he spoke about the opportunities in the period that the F&M governed, and referred expressly to having the F&M government squandered and squandering opportunities and how they handled growth opportunities. That's the governor of the central bank. See, and if you, yes, squandered. Squandered. Those are his words. Squandered. Squandered. In the mid-1990s. I didn't tell you which governor, but it happened to be governor that you know well. Now, Madam President, the choice of words.
On a point of order, Madam President. The Honorable Senator attributes the word squandered and cites the office of Governor of the Central Bank.
You want his name?
Well, if he's quoting, we'd ask him to state who said it.
Julian Francis.
And whether he was the governor at the time.
Yes, yes, he was governor at the time.
And Madam President, further on the point of order, we'd like a copy of where
that was stated if it was in a press release or public statement?
It's in the central bank's reports, and I would gladly furnish you with a copy before the end of the debate. It's not a problem. Yield to Senator Gibson.
Madam President, I move that the business of the Senate will continue beyond 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 19th of June, 2013.
Seconded.
It's moved and seconded that the business of this chamber extend beyond 7 p.m. on this date, the 18th day of June, 2013. As many as are in favor should say aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The ayes have it, and it is so ordered.
Madam President, I thank you. Oftentimes, we get exuberant and we choose some words to describe and convey certain positions of political parties. And it was the F&M and persons in the F&M that accused the PLP, and unfairly so, of unethically benefiting from public funds and national assets. To reinforce this notion, and it's quite curious, after May 2nd, 2007, the new Prime Minister had accused the PLP of secretly planning to sell BTC. And secretly planning to sell BTC to political insiders. And it's been proven that that was untrue. That was untrue. And after that, the F&M went silent. They then started to talk about hands in the cookie jar, who's getting what and what's happening, and and all we have to do, Madam President, is just look at BTC. Where are we today, and who did what with BTC as we stand here today? Out in the open. Out in the open. He's forced to come and say to the Bahamian people, the F&M sold BTC. The service you're getting from BTC through Line is worse than you could have imagined. Worse than you could have imagined. And who benefited from that sale? The jury's still out on the $10 million finder's fee. Who got that? Where did that go? Whose hand is on that? Where did that go?
Point of order, Madam President. Madam President, the Honorable Senator, who is an Honorable Senator, has made an allegation about a finder's fee. And circumstances in this Honorable Senate, I'm sure that he would not object to producing the documentation that supports the allegation, because this is a very serious allegation. And when we're in public office, as has been said many times, the only thing we do have is our name. We want to leave public office with a good name wherever is possible. And so I would ask the Honorable Member that if he is alleging that there is some finder's fee, that he ought to produce the documentation, or do the honorable thing and withdraw it, because it really is something that impacts on names and reputations of persons, and I wouldn't want anyone to do that to him when he lives public life. I think it's important for all of us to not do it to each other.
Madam President, I thank you. It's a matter of public record, and I'm simply asking the question about the finder's fee. Where did it go? I'm not saying it went to anybody in particular. I didn't call a name. I just want to know. I'm an inquiring mind, and I have an inquiring mind, and I want to know. It's a $200 million sale. The majority shares of the crown jewel in our assets has been sold for $200 million. Control has been sold for $200 million. The Honorable Senator sat in the House of Assembly and was there when documents were tabled. And those documents are matter of public record. I want to know. I want to know. And you sat around the cabinet table. Now, if you are willing to disclose, everyone would like to know.
Madam President, the honourable member still not provided evidence with respect to this alleged finder's fee. And if he is making that statement here, I would respectfully ask that he provide the said documents.
Madam President, it's a question I pose generally. It's not directed. He can choose to answer. I'm surprised that he stood up. If there's no finder's fee, and he knows there's no finder's fee, he can say that. And put that on the record if you want to. If you wish. But BDC has been sold for $200 million. To detract from the substance of that sale and that transaction, they chose to scorch the earth first by putting out there that the PLP was secretly planning to sell. And that was absolute nonsense. And from his seat, and from any number of senators on the opposition side, you hear them talking about blue water. And they have absolutely no proof, except innuendo, and they seek to repeat those here in this chamber. And it's very unfortunate that something that is a matter of public record can be questioned that way, while at the same breath talking about a secret deal with blue water. That's, I won't want to use that word, and that may be, yes, the H word, but I will use that at some other point, but not directly to refer to Senator Bannister, because I think Senator Bannister has a higher calling, and I would speak to that too. Yeah, higher calling. And I think that a number of people made the wrong choice at a particular event. And I want to go on record, Senator Bannister, as saying something very positive to you, and I will get to that in my contribution. See, after they sold this deal, after they sold BTC, they sought to detract and distract the Bahamian people. And they said, you know what we're going to do with the funds? We're going to take the funds that we got from the sale of BTC and we're going to build a new hospital. We're going to build a new hospital. I sit as chairman of the Public Hospitals Authority, and I could say unequivocally right now, there is no new hospital. There was no new hospital constructed with the $200 million that the country received from the sale of BTC. The F&M sold BTC. The $200 million was not used to construct a new hospital. None of it was used. You heard the Prime Minister speak last night, and we started the critical care block, which we will complete on our watch, and the completion, and it's under $200 million. So where did the money go? Where is the $200 million? Where did it go? But let's go back to...
On a point of order. The honourable member saying that the money went anywhere else other than the consolidated fund, because you see it becomes again another very serious matter when you throw these matters out, and members know that money would have had to have gone to the consolidated fund with respect to something of this nature. And it is very, very disappointing when I see members stand in the Senate and throw allegations around that they know better. And the honourable senator, I have the highest respect for him, the highest respect.
Likewise, I have the highest respect for the Honorable Senator. It was not this member or this side that stated to the public that a new hospital would be built with the proceeds of the sale of the majority of shares in PTC. Those words came from your then leader, then Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram. He said that those funds were earmarked for. And those funds were not earmarked, so I'm asking, where did the funds go? Where is it? Where's the money? The PLP, and I wish to move on now. The PLP told the country that the unemployment rate was reduced from 9.1% in May 2002 to 7.6% in May 2006. You hear that? That's a reduction. That's a reduction. Where were we? That's probably the irreducible minimum. Where were we 13 months ago? Climbing up from 7.6% unemployment to 16.9% unemployment. More than double. More than double. Under the watch of Hubert Alexander Ingram and the Free National Movement. There are a number of senators in this place, this honorable chamber, that are from Grand Bahama. And they can tell you that under the PLP, more jobs were created in Grand Bahama, even than under the FNM, and the closure of Royal Oasis.
Point of order, Madam President. Again, we want to seek to be factual, and I'm reading from the back of. I'm reading from the table. Looks like table 12 in Roman numerals. Key labor force statistics, and the unemployment rate for all the Bahamas in 2011 was 15.9, and in 2012 it went down to 14.1. So during the period of 2011, when the Free National Movement was still the government, and a part of 2012, the unemployment rate went down. It was not on its way up, but it was actually on its way down.
Yeah,
I believe he also, the senator also called the number of the unemployment rate 13 months ago. And the unemployment rate in 2012 was not 16, but it was actually 14, less than the 15.
I move on. Compare the numbers either way, whatever number you wish to use. Compare 7.6 to the number you call, and do a multiple. Which is more, which is less. Which is more, which is less. And it's safe to say that your government queried the reliability of numbers coming out of the Department of Statistics during that time.
More than double.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact. When you speak, you can speak to the numbers, and you can give an explanation, because you're from Grand Bahama. You sat on a safe seat and you got voted out because of your dismal performance. Blair, my brother, Blair. The good people of Blair. The good people of Blair. It's Montague. It's Montague. It's Montague. It's Montague. We'll get to that. Gerrymander, such a good man, put me here today. No, I'm not mad. You got a smile on my face. The bottom line is, when the growth rate in the economy, the Bahamian economy, 2006, the economy grew by 4%, the best rate since 1999, and was projected to grow in real terms by 4.5% in 2007 and by 4% in 2008. Yes. That's the best 3-year stretch in a long time, very long time. And all of this information confirms that on average, each Bahamian household was better off in May 2007 than they were in May 2002. And the increase in income from 2002 to 2006 was better than what happened under the F&M from 92 to 1996. I trust that we have all heard enough to conclude that the PLP from 2002 to 2007 was better for the Bahamas than the F&M was during either of his first 2 terms in office. And today, Bahamians are better off now than they were under the F&M when they left office or were removed, thank God, from office by the Bahamian people. Madam President, the government under the F&M had some very biased programs where they made very, very special concessions to F&M members of Parliament. I served as the Member of Parliament for the St. Thomas More constituency at the time, which included a large percentage of the geographical area known as Kemp Road. And during that time, when the F&M launched what they call their comprehensive, all-encompassing 52-week program, not one person, not one. You have to go to your F&M MP to get on the 52-week program. So now when I get calls.
Point of order, Madam President. Again, we have to be very careful in what we say in this place. And the Honorable Senator said you had to go to your F&M Member of Parliament to get on this program. That is completely inaccurate and a false statement. Applications were all over the different ministries.
Did you have any applications in your constituency
please
office?
Please allow me to complete.
Did you submit?
Please allow me to complete. And members of the public were free to go to all of the government agencies and apply for the 52-week program. So it is completely incorrect, and I'm going to ask the Honorable Senator to withdraw the comment that you had to go to an F&M Member of Parliament to get on this program.
Did you have application forms? Senator Thompson, I thank you very much for your contribution, and you're seeking to, But I wish you had given a fuller defense, which, yes, you could have gone to a government office to ask for a form, but you would not have been given a form because we tried that. We tried that. But F&M constituency officers and members of parliament, and I happen to overhear, and I don't want to speak to what I heard in the smokers' room over in the other place, but suffice it to say that the Lord works in mysterious ways, because we now have in place a government in the PLP that will put in place a comprehensive program to train and hire people now. And once we do it, I want to hear no voice of dissension from the other side, because the 52-week program, never mind what others have said, because I figured that someone would stand to object, but I sat over there. And at any occasion I could seize to employ or cause someone to be employed from my constituency or from anywhere, I would seize it. But you know, this was the modus operandi of the F&M. Deception and deceit at its highest. Tricks really to try to fool the people. But as I've said before, whenever the F&M governed, they left the country worse off than how they met it. Those are the facts. They're borne out by statistics, as acknowledged by Senator Thompson. When talking about the employment rate, as one example. For the record, Madam President, this is the fact that this is the first wholly PLP budget, and it's you know, that's a slip. We interject PLP and Bahamian, but it seems like the PLP is the only party for Bahamians. But we put Bahamians first. But this is really our first budget after coming to office, and we came in to office May 2012, and we're now in June, and the F&M prepared the last budget, and we had very little time to make any changes. But now, this is 100% PLP. And this budget seeks to institutionalize programs foreshadowed and forecasted. And when you couple that with the fact that this economy has in fact turned the corner, you have every confidence that our future is secure. After 12 months of inheriting an economy that was in a disastrous state, we have since been able to do several things I know that the F&M thought was pretty much impossible, especially when they have done so much to hamstring the incoming government. And I reserve to use, I restrain myself from using the word sabotage, but it's almost like they swallowed a poison pill in their last year, their last 12 months in office. This budget takes the necessary steps towards safeguarding the future for all Bahamians. It seeks to increase employment, reduce unemployment, and reduce unemployment. As a matter of fact, unemployment has fallen from 14.7% to 14% and continues to trend downwards. This is significant because we anticipate reducing poverty and unemployment under this administration, again, to an irreducible minimum. This budget is one that all Bahamians can look to for relief. We know that there has to be growth in the economy, and we understand that this growth must be created through employment creation. This employment creation, we recognize too, should come primarily through the private sector, as history has proven that the private sector is best able to generate a full array of sustainable employment opportunities. When we look at the construction industry in the Bahamas, we know that it has been proven time and time again that construction has the capability to be a very positive contributor to growth, job creation, and ultimately poverty reduction. With the Ministry of Housing now forecasting a major thrust in home construction, there's no doubt that this will have immediate positive effect on a myriad of indicators, from import duties to unemployment and even social service expenditure. One of the key indicators with respect to the quality of life that citizens enjoy, and it is a rough indicator, but an indicator nonetheless, is what we call the misery index. This index is defined as unemployment plus inflation, total of the percentage unemployment rate combined with the percentage inflation rate, and it's used really as a general but inexact indication of the state of the economy. This index under the PLP, I'm pleased to say, is trending in the right direction, downward. Both unemployment and inflation are moving towards lower figures. In the PLP, we recognize that poverty reduction in the Bahamas is a noble pursuit. And ultimately, that is the end result of many of the PLP government's planned initiatives. The government's urban renewal program aggressively assisted in securing first-hand information on a comprehensive basis, and it aids the government in assessing the real and true conditions that exist in various communities today. And we understand that where urban renewal is in effect, that these are the areas that are most likely to have and experience social conditions and less than ideal and poverty in a number that is probably, or the extent that is probably higher than other areas. With this information, the government is able to assess and then devise a strategy to subsequently bring relief. And this relief we seek to bring very quickly and where it is needed most. We know how to measure progress and see firsthand the effects on a daily basis what our policies and programs have on the people we intend to target. This budget promotes growth, and by promoting growth, destitution will be eased, the future will be secured. And this budget, I don't know if it's been mentioned before, this budget ensures that the disparity between income groupings is narrowed and not widened or expanded, i.e., it does not cater to special interests. This budget ensures that the gravy of growth is not all taken up by the wealthy in our society. The government needs to be congratulated on having presented a budget that seeks to reduce poverty by making the poor and unemployed richer more empowered, and sustainably so. By initiating a massive skills training initiative designed to put people in a position to take advantage of high-paying and sustainable jobs, people will be put back to work and be back on course to make a very meaningful and positive contribution to our society. Looking out for the poor. This is what a progressive society does. It seeks to eliminate poverty by making the poor richer. That's what we do, and that's what we seek to do. Urban renewal has served this country well. And one of the areas that served us well is that it has given us tremendous insight into the ills of our country. Not only has it given us insight, but it has given us the basis for finding solutions to be brought to bear on these problems. Where do we go from here? That's the question. Yep. Bahamians generally agree on what the problems are that we face as a society. And many Bahamians are willing to make behavioral adjustment, whether it is through spending adjustment, education, seeking education, whether it is through operational adjustment, or just embracing a better, more stable society. Consultation is important. Constant consultation is imperative. Our chief vehicle to get to where we need to go is really through economic reforms, and that's really how we will experience our growth. Other countries that have a dissimilar makeup rely on a mixture of other influences like urbanization, demographic changes, and technological advancement. We in the Bahamas must chiefly rely on economic reforms, and that's why this budget is so important at this time. It is a fact that the F&M did not reduce poverty or reduce the unemployment rate. During the governance of the F&M, we noticed significant borrowings and massive expenditure, and we have been made to pay the price. Now it is easy to be optimistic about the economic future of the Bahamas when we consider the leadership we have in place and the commitment that this leadership has to developing human capital. The PLP's administration's leadership delivered growth and employment before, and this track record serves as a confidence builder for many Bahamians. When we speak to them about our future, they understand and they believe, because they know that we will deliver. Despite the theme adopted by members opposite, the Bahamian people know that they do not deliver, and in fact, the PLP delivers. The proof is in the pudding. Bahamians accept prescriptions that we offer in a wheelchair. I understand we sitting in a wheelchair, but arise, we walk again. The doctor puts you in the wheelchair. We getting you up now. Time to get moving. One of the areas that I've been privileged to serve is I have a little more to say. Madam President, I wish to express my gratitude again to the Prime Minister for having appointed me to the chairmanship of the Public Hospitals Authority. Almost, I'll get to that. Stop the clock.
Continue.
You want to be recording this? The chairmanship of the Hospital Authority is an awesome responsibility. For the fiscal year 2013-2014, the PHA will receive an allocation of $199,744,905, the largest since the establishment of the Public Hospital Authority in July 1999. I wish to assure the public that the PHA will make good use of this allocation. There are several areas of concentration that we intend to target. One is mental health wellness. TBA, to be announced. Stay tuned. The PHA TBA. Good mental health is just as good as physical health. In fact, there can be no health without mental health. The importance of good mental health in our society needs no explanation or justification. And I state unequivocally that it is a priority for this government. As a part of the new model of care for patients with mental health concerns, the PHA, along with the Ministry of Health, is exploring an option in the short term to relocate to more suitable accommodation. I had occasion to tour some of our facilities in the inner city and was left with a lasting impression that we can do better. And I wish to say to those people who I have met that we will do better, because we're better than this. You deserve better than this. There's no overstating the importance of mental health and the importance to the overall society of mental health. In a reply to an email sent to Barack Obama asking about his mental health care plan and his position on mental health care issues, he wrote, "Dear friend, thank you for contacting me about mental health and the treatment of mental illness. As you know, mental illness affects approximately 1 in 5 American families, and we must do more to address this issue." And he goes on to talk about the amount of monies that are allocated for mental health. And he goes on further to say, "I am proud of my record on this issue. I helped pass a mental health parity bill as an Illinois state senator that requires coverage for serious mental illness to be provided on the same terms and conditions as are applicable to other illnesses and diseases. Thank you for contacting me on this issue." Based on what we are seeing in our society today, we know that we need to beef up this area of health care for Bahamians in the Bahamas. And for those Bahamians who doubt this administration's resolve and commitment to mental health, I say to you, you have another thing coming. We are firm in our resolve. Mr. Vice President, I wish to acknowledge the contribution made by the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Perry Gomez. It is a pleasure working with Minister Gomez. And we have some very ambitious goals for healthcare in the Bahamas and for the Public Hospitals Authority. And The old regime is out, the new is here. The honeymoon is over, has been over, and we intend to move full steam ahead, and we urge all to get on board because we are putting Bahamians first, and their health care is of paramount importance to us. I can tell you that A&E, accident and emergency at the Princess Margaret Hospital, there are plans to upgrade and expand the trauma room and improve the capacity to triage patients and the ability to monitor patients through telehealth technology from the intensive care unit. In Grand Bahama, we have been in communication with any number of stakeholders with respect to constructing a new hospital in Grand Bahama, and I know Senator Kwesi Thompson is very glad to hear that. You've noticed that there have been a number of positive initiatives to improve the healthcare facilities in Grand Bahama. And you could hit on the table. You should be proud of that. You should be proud of that. You should be very proud of that. Minister for Grand Bahama and Minister for Health will be working hand in hand to get stuff done for the people of Grand Bahama. We recognize that many of the facilities are inadequate, antiquated, and need to be upgraded, and we are moving to do so as quickly as means will allow. And again, we are firm in our resolve. Mr. Vice President, I wish to deal with hypocrisy and double standards in government.
My Lord.
In 2012, there was a time when I had occasion to be sitting in another place.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to sit on the Public Accounts Committee. That committee worked very, very hard
It did.
and produced a report after intense interviews and constructive deliberation. This is a factually based report. And this report exposed one of the greatest instances of mismanagement, corruption, and abuse ever in the history of the Bahamas. Mr. Vice President, this was presented by the now current leader of government business in the House of Assembly. The report was well received by all, but it wasn't debated. It was not debated. The then F&M government did not want a debate on the report. They had the majority, you know. In fact, they feared the findings and sought to discredit the findings by presenting to the then member for Pine Ridge, Senator Kwesi Thompson, who was a member of the committee. He sought to deliver an unapproved, unsanctioned, improper, non-factually based report.
My Lord. He did that?
And then the speaker would not allow objection. Let me just finish my statement. I'll yield.
I'll allow you to finish.
And the then speaker would not allow objection to be made, even though these objections were made in the national interest.
Right.
Go on, Senator. I yield.
Chair recognizes Senator Thompson. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. You know, Mr. Vice President, we have been down this road before in the Senate. In the Senate, because I objected before, and when the Honorable Senator tried to say the same remarks that he made before. And I will say again, the report that I presented to Parliament, and the Honorable Senator knows this report very well, because he was right on the side of me attempting to stop me from giving the report by moving the microphone away from me, and had to apologize to the House as a result of moving the microphone away from me. But the report that I presented and tabled was a factual report.
It's a point of order.
It's a point of order.
Yes, it's a different point of order.
May I continue?
Can you yield, Senator Smith?
I yield, Mr. Vice President.
So, Vice President, when you sit as Vice President, it's a very important place. You are above the fray. You are above this whole debate. Likewise, the Speaker of the House of Assembly. And I'm very concerned when any member of this place makes a comment with respect to the Speaker of the House of Assembly or the President or Vice President while they sit in this place. I know that the Honorable Senator will likewise be concerned, and I know that he will not make that statement again with respect to the Speaker.
I didn't say anything disparaging about the Speaker, but the Speaker, no, it's a fact. These are facts, Mr. Vice President, it's a fact. The Speaker will not allow an objection. That's a fact. That's a fact. Even though it's being made in national interest. During this time, Senator, in my view, in the national interest. During this time, I grabbed the microphone of the member in the national interest because the Speaker refused to stop that what I regarded as an abomination in the House of Assembly. I grabbed the microphone, yes I did. To stop an abuse of our democratic system, I grabbed the microphone. In the spirit of justice and fair play for all, I grabbed the microphone. The repercussions from the then Prime Minister and leader of the FNM was that this was the worst behavior, that this was a national disgrace. His approach was based on this. Never having put my hand on the member, and he acknowledged that here. Never having put my hand on the member. He said I grabbed his microphone. There were YouTube videos circulated as an example of how not to act in the House of Assembly, despite the fact that the actions taken in the national, that I took in the national interest. I had to apologize in the national interest. The bottom line is, I had to pay the price for my actions. They were not swept under the carpet. I did what I did in the national interest and in the interest of fairness and as a protest against unfairness and injustice. Mr. Vice President, last week in the House of Assembly, you wouldn't believe the MP for Long Island, the island of my mother, and her ancestors' birth. She let all of them down. The member for Long Island. Every woman, every FNM, every man, every child, they're despicable, unbecoming, unladylike behavior. And she, Hubert Alexander must be rolling over this time. Surely this is the most egregious affront on the Parliament.
Point of order on the floor, please take a seat.
Mr. Vice President.
Chair recognizes Senator Thompson.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice President, again, this is a very serious, sobering moment that we are speaking about. And you cannot speak about the integrity of the member for Long Island. He did.
No,
He said it was despicable, and what, Madam, Mr. Vice President, what is despicable is a member of Parliament putting his hands on a married member of Parliament.
Senator Thompson,
And whatever
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there,
Vice
Senator
President,
Thompson. Please take your
he
seat.
said it was a despicable act.
Please take your seat.
Take your seat.
And so with the member, the president told you to sit down.
Fellow senators, it is not my intent to preside over the Senate on this particular matter. That matter took place in another place.
Yes.
And what I will say to the Honorable Senator Smith, if you wish to express your opinion,
Yes.
feel free to do so. You did not say that it was in my opinion. You made a statement as of fact.
Okay.
And I think it's important for us not to engage in a debate on that point, and that's where we That is what I will do this evening. Senator Smith, please continue to be guided by my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You know, when I grab the microphone, that's the microphone, that's in another thing. That's not that. This, Mr. Vice President, I acknowledge that Senator Thompson spoke, and it's a matter of public debate. This isn't something that's happened in isolation. But may I speak, Senator Thompson? You can rise on a point of order if you wish. But our nation today is faced with what we say, and I think it's so fitting that Senator Bannister made the point, with a crime problem. The crime problem. And we also oftentimes speak of persons' inability to resolve conflict without resorting to violence. Those are the facts. And I'm saying that those who are in leadership positions in our country, in our society, we have to hold our leaders to a higher standard. When we look at what we are as a people, we recognize that we elect leaders to lead. You know, and it's so fitting Senator Bannister would be here right now, because Senator Bannister embodies some of the qualities that I think ought to be embraced. Qualities. Now, I think you're on the wrong political side. That's right. But you got some qualities that I think ought to be embraced. Right. And there's some people who have some qualities that should be rejected and not embraced. And, you know, when we talk about leaders, we recognize that in politics in the Bahamas, the PLP and the FNM, they are major political parties. Those positions of leader and deputy leader in these two political organizations are significant. They're material. They should be beyond reproach, and they embody the principles of the party. Your party elects you to do certain things. To do certain things. The reality is that a deputy leader is held, and a leader, they're held to even higher standards. And when they abandon those standards, after full, free, clear, and informed thought, as my grandmother used to say, to some people that were wayward, if they continue their way, boy, you're done for. Change must come. Those delegates, I encourage you to go again in November. Go again for the deputy leadership. A vacuum has been created now. Go for it, my brother. Go for it, Senator Bannister. All indications are, just looking at how this whole incident unfolded, that there wasn't a reaction. It was premeditated. It was deliberate. It was thought out.
Is the point of order on the floor?
Mr. Vice
Chair,
President,
Senator Smith, can you sit a moment, please?
a few minutes
Chair
ago,
recognizes
I believe I believe you indicated a few moments ago that you didn't intend to preside over discussion in this place on the incident that happened in the House of Assembly. Senator Smith persists, and I wish you just to ask you to have him stop speaking of the incident, because that was dealt with by the speaker, and you yourself just said, sir, that was a matter that was dealt with in the...
I'm not opining on the ruling of the speaker.
Thank you, Senator
President,
Hunt.
if I may, I'm not opining on the ruling of the speaker. I'm not opining on that. I am expressing my opinion on actions that were public. I am not questioning the integrity of any member. I am not questioning the validity of any ruling made by the speaker in the other place. I'm not doing that. That's been put on the record by Senator Hunt, and those are not my words. So I don't accept the point of order as raised by the honorable senator.
Point of order, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, the Senator Smith said the act was deliberate and thought out
That's my opinion.
act, and I do not want him to mislead this place or the public. It was an act of self-defense.
So you are saying that the member was offended by another member. That's your opinion? She was what? Oh, but Mr. Vice President, now I'm on my feet.
Senator Smith.
I have to take grave exception to that.
I rise on a point of order now, madam. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, these rules...
Senator Gibson.
May I?
Please.
These rules, I'm looking now at manner and content of speeches, which is Rule 31. The Honorable Member, Senator Thompson, rose and he made an allegation in here just now. Do I need to go to what he just said? About the assault? You know what an assault is? It's a criminal offense. He used the word assault. And I demand, I don't want to be disrespectful, I'm sorry. I respectfully ask you, Mr. Vice President, to help him withdraw that word that he used when he stood up on a point of order, making an allegation in violation of Rule 31 about a member of the Parliament, the Honorable House of Assembly. Assault?
Point of order. Point of order.
Allegation in here?
Point of order, Mr. Vice President.
I am on a point of order. I'm not finished my point of order.
She's not finished with the point of order. Let me allow her to continue.
Ask him, as an honorable person, and I believe that he is, to withdraw those words used against the honorable member in the other place, Mr. Vice Chairman. That is a most offensive and egregious word.
Thank you, Senator Gibson. Senator Thompson.
Mr. Vice President, the Honorable Attorney General indicated that I said the word assault when I was giving my point of order. I made comments from my seat. I never said the word assault on my feet.
Honorable Senators, it is not my intent to allow this particular line to continue. And so I'm going to ask Senator Smith to move on to his next point in his contribution.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, Madam, Mr. Vice President,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm still on the point of order. The honorable member admits that I don't accept that he's honorable, that he said assault from his seat, but he stood and said self-defense. That imputes that the honorable member in the other place attacked somebody that required self-defense. In this place, he cannot make that statement about an honorable member of Parliament, Mr. Vice Chairman. He must withdraw that statement, Mr. Vice Chairman. On what basis is he saying that?
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator. Senator Thompson, I invite you to withdraw that particular statement.
Mr. Vice President.
Withdraw that so we can move on.
No, Mr. Vice President.
I acknowledge that you did mention the point of assault while you were seated. Also, I will counsel all members of the Senate. Please, the language that you use must always be parliamentary. At no time should you impugn the integrity, the good name of any fellow senator, any member of the other side, in the other house, or any member of society. We all held to a higher standard. Senator Thompson, that applies to all members on both sides.
Mr. Vice President, I accept and I agree with what you had just spoken of. And I stood in defense of the member for Long Island. After the senator indicated that, and this is what he said, that her actions were deliberate and thought out. And if he indicated that those actions were deliberate and thought out, that is a criminal offense. So if I am to withdraw the word self-defense,
Senator,
then he must withdraw those words.
my ruling is simple. The good senator expressed an opinion, which you shared in terms of self-defense. I'm not going to go into that act that took place in the next place. I'm simply going to say to you, withdraw the comment that you made so that we can move on. And I've said to the other side, in the person of Senator Smith, to be guided by further comments.
I don't want to prolong this.
Thank you.
Because we ought not even be debating this.
That's my point.
But,
You bring up the microphone.
Mr. Vice President, I was not there, so I cannot state as a matter of fact that it was self-defense in the same way that he cannot state that what he said. It is, I withdraw stating self-defense as a fact and substitute it as my opinion.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the honorable member, on a point of order, is
Chair recognizes Senator
even
Gibson.
worse. He said he wasn't there.
Right.
How could he express an opinion about something that happened and he wasn't even there? He was not there. That it was self-defense.
Honorable Senator,
Self-defense, Mr. Vice President.
I hear your comment.
Self-defense imputes a criminal. There's something, an assault that he required defense. Please,
Thank you very much.
please. I asked him to withdraw that, Mr. Vice Chairman.
He's ready to join us on your comment. Senator, please continue, Senator Smith.
Mr. Vice President, I thank you so much. Again, I do not wish for all of the, absolutely not. We're in a budget debate right now. And I wish I would be allowed to move on. If we could cut down the heckling from those occupying the seats. Well, if you will allow me to, you know, I want to move on in peace and love and harmony, right? And I will not be provoked. I will not be provoked. Mr. Vice President, I wish to state for the record that this budget, and we will go through the heads, has a tremendous impact and will have a tremendous impact on the future of Bahamians. And this budget, as delivered by our Prime Minister, safeguards our future. We are where we are, and we must do what we say we are going to do to move from where we are to where we say we need to be and want to be. In that regard, Mr. Vice President, I wish to go on record as supporting vehemently this budget for 2013, fiscal year 2013-2014. I pray for heaven's richest blessings on our country and the peoples of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator. Asmani?
Mr. Vice Chairman, noting the time, I move that the business of the Senate be suspended until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, the 20th of June 2013. The 20th of June 2013.
So seconded? It's been moved and seconded that the business of the Senate now suspend until 10 a.m. on the 20th of June. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposing, nay. The ayes have it. The Senate now stands suspended.
In the Senate on the 2013-2014 budget. Not much budget being debated in the last 10 minutes, but that is what was happening here today. And of course, as you just heard the leader of government business in the Senate, the Honorable Allison Maynard Gibson, say they will meet again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And again, the intention is to complete this debate tomorrow. We'll probably go a little later than 7 o'clock, but again, it's left to be seen. We still have two more presenters from the opposition F&M, and of course, the final presenter for the government side would be the Honorable Allison Gibson, who, of course, opened the debate. We heard earlier today from the leader of opposition business, Senator Desmond Bannister, and just before him, Senator John Bostwick, who talked a lot about his discussions with the Minister of Tourism and his ideas for improving the tourism product. And so, tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, we'll be back here to continue the debate on the 2013-2014 budget. Of course, the debate must be concluded in time for the bills to go on to the Governor General for his signature for the beginning of the new fiscal year, which begins on July 1st. And so on behalf of the team here at the Senate Parliamentary Channel, I'm Anthony Newbold. Enjoy the rest of your evening.